You know that moment right after you finish something, and instead of feeling satisfied, your mind quietly starts scanning for what wasn't good enough. It doesn't matter what it is: an exam, a conversation, a small achievement. There's always this subtle pull toward what could have been better. You don't celebrate for long, if at all. There's this quiet habit of minimizing what you did right and magnifying what you could have done differently. And the strange part is, from the outside, it doesn't make sense. People might even compliment you, tell you that you did well, that you're doing fine. But somehow, that never fully lands. It passes through you without settling. And over time, it creates this feeling that's hard to explain to anyone else. Like no matter what you do, there's always a small voice in the background saying, "It's still not enough." Most people don't understand this experience. They might call it low confidence, or say you need to believe in yourself more. Some might assume you're being too hard on yourself for no reason, but that interpretation misses something important. Because this isn't just a mindset problem, it's a pattern, and patterns don't come from nowhere. They're built. There's more going on here than people usually realize. That feeling of never being good enough isn't random. It often comes from how your brain learned to measure worth in the first place. Psychology has a concept called conditional self-worth. It's when your sense of value becomes tied to performance, outcomes, or how others respond to you. Not consciously, but gradually. Your brain starts associating being accepted with doing things correctly, with meeting expectations, with avoiding mistakes. And over time, something subtle happens. Your nervous system begins to treat evaluation as something important to monitor constantly. Studies in behavioral psychology show that when reward and approval are inconsistent, sometimes given, sometimes withheld, the brain becomes more alert to feedback. It starts scanning more carefully, trying to predict what leads to acceptance and what doesn't. Not in a loud, obvious way, but quietly, continuously. So even in normal situations, your mind is already evaluating, already measuring, already comparing what happened to what should have happened. And that's why the feeling doesn't go away easily. Because it's not just about one moment. It's about a system that's always running in the background. This pattern often has roots in experience, not necessarily extreme experiences. Sometimes it comes from subtle environments where praise was tied to achievement, where mistakes were noticed more than effort, where being good meant being right, consistent, or impressive, or even situations where you had to figure things out on your own and learn to rely on self-correction to stay on track. Over time, your brain adapts. It becomes efficient at spotting gaps, at noticing flaws, at anticipating how things could go wrong or be improved. And that ability becomes part of how you move through the world. But here's the part that often gets misunderstood. This isn't about being broken, and it's not about being worse than someone else who doesn't feel this way. It's just a different way your system learned to operate. Some people are wired to move through experiences without constantly evaluating themselves. Others develop a more self-monitoring style. Neither is superior. They just come with different internal experiences. But there's something else happening beneath this pattern. Something quieter. The same system that makes you feel like you're not enough is also the system that pushes you to notice details others miss, to improve, to refine, to think deeply about your actions and their impact. It's the reason you care about doing things well, the reason you don't just move through life on autopilot. And yet, that same awareness can turn inward. Instead of just helping you grow, it starts measuring you constantly. And this creates a kind of paradox. The more capable you are of self-reflection, the easier it becomes to see what's lacking, even when, objectively, nothing is missing. So the voice that says, "not enough," isn't always pointing to reality. Sometimes it's just the byproduct of a mind that's trained to look for improvement. And when you don't recognize that, it starts to feel personal, like it's about who you are, not just how you process things. That's where the weight comes from. Not from failure, but from constant evaluation. And when that evaluation becomes automatic, it can feel like there's no off switch, like no matter what you achieve, your mind moves the finish line just a little further. But the presence of that voice doesn't mean it's accurate. It just means it's familiar. It means your system learned to prioritize growth through self-correction, and it kept doing it, even when it wasn't needed anymore. There's also a quiet cost to this. When your attention is always on what's missing, it becomes harder to register what's already there. Not because it's not real, but because your brain isn't trained to focus on it. It's trained to improve, not to absorb. So even positive experiences don't fully settle. They pass through, while your mind moves to the next adjustment. And over time, that creates the feeling of never arriving, of always being in progress, without ever feeling complete. But none of this means something is wrong with you. It means your mind developed a specific way of navigating the world, one that values awareness, precision, and growth. It just didn't learn how to pause, how to recognize completion, how to let something be enough without needing to adjust it. And that's not a flaw. It's an incomplete loop, because the same awareness that notices what's missing is also capable of noticing what's present. It just hasn't been used that way consistently yet. So that feeling you carry, that quiet sense of not being enough, it isn't proof of your inadequacy. It's evidence of how your mind has been trained to think. And once you see that clearly, something begins to shift. The voice doesn't disappear overnight, but it becomes less convincing, less absolute, more like a habit than a truth. And in that space, something else becomes possible. A different way of relating to your own effort, not by forcing confidence, not by pretending everything is perfect, but by understanding the mechanism behind the feeling. Because when something makes sense, it stops feeling like a personal flaw. It becomes something you can observe, something you can hold with a little more distance, and maybe, over time, something you no longer need to believe so completely. If this felt familiar, there's more to this pattern than just self-worth. There are layers to how your mind learned to evaluate, compare, and protect you. And once you start seeing those layers, you don't just understand the feeling differently. You experience yourself differently too.